Okay, let's dive in. Picture this. You're on a ship, stuck solid in Arctic ice, fog everywhere, and then, bam, you spot this huge figure on a dog sled racing across the ice miles from anywhere.
It's an incredible image to start with, isn't it?
Totally. And then days later, your crew pulls another guy out of the ice, half frozen, clearly chasing the first one. What is going on here? Who are these people?
Well, that's the absolutely gripping opening to Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, written way back in the early 19th century. We often call it Gothic horror. And it is, but it was doing something really new with science, consequences. Maybe the first real science fiction novel, you could argue.
Yeah, definitely feels like it. And for this deep dive, you've brought us the novel itself, which is told in this really cool way through letters from the ship's captain, Robert Walton, to his sister. And then inside those letters, you get these amazing layered stories from the guy they rescued, Victor Frankenstein, and incredibly, from the being he created.
Exactly. So our mission really is to unpack all these layers.
Right.
Walton's journey, Victor's story, the creature's perspective. We want to get at what the sources tell us about, ambition, about responsibility, what it means to create something, and maybe what it means to be human.
Absolutely. So let's start with Walton, captain of the ship, writing home to his sister Margaret. What's his deal? Why is he pushing into this incredibly dangerous, unknown Arctic region?
It's this burning curiosity, The sources show he's driven to go where no one's gone before, literally tread a land never before imprinted by the foot of man. He mentions his Uncle Thomas's library.
Ah, right.
Filled with accounts of voyages. He devoured those day and night. That's what sparked it all.
So he's dreaming of glory, not just comfort and wealth. He genuinely seems to think he can bring some inestimable benefit to humanity with his discoveries. It's a mix of personal ambition and, well, something bigger.
It is. But underneath all that drive, all that courage, he's also profoundly lonely. He writes about needing a friend, someone who gets him, someone to share his dreams with.
Which makes that sighting even crazier. They're stuck in the ice and fog, and then this huge figure on a sledge just appears, moving rapidly. It makes no sense.
None at all. And then, a few days later, there's Victor Frankenstein, nearly frozen, on another sledge, apparently chasing the first figure. Walton feels this immediate connection to him. He sees something noble, something refined, despite the state he's in.
Like he's found the friend he was looking for?
Exactly. But Victor is obviously tormented, deep in grief. He doesn't want to talk at first.
What changes his mind?
It's Walton sharing his own ambitions, his own thirst for knowledge. That resonates with Victor. But then Victor gives him this really stark warning, doesn't he? Tells him to dash the cup from your lips before ambition destroys him too.
Oof. That's heavy. Setting the stage right there.
Yeah, he sees himself in Walton. That warning, it's like the core theme hitting you right at the start. The danger of letting ambition run wild.
And so Victor starts his story, begins, surprisingly, with a pretty happy childhood in Geneva.
Yes, it seems quite idyllic, actually. Privileged. He talks about his parents, Alphonse and Caroline. Interesting backstory with Caroline. Her father ruined her poverty, Alphonse stepping in.
Right.
And then there's Elizabeth Lavenza, adopted into the family. Described as having this celestial stamp, everyone loves her. She becomes Victor's closest companion, his more than sister. He also mentions his brothers, Ernest and poor William.
And even as kids, you see that difference. Elizabeth loves nature's beauty, the magnificent appearances. Victor, he needs to know the pauses. He's driven by curiosity, earnest research, always drawn to the marvelous.
And that fascination pulls him towards, well, not exactly mainstream science at first. He gets obsessed with these old alchemists, Cornelius Agrippa, Paracelsus, Albertus Magnus.
Searching for the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Wanting to defeat death, disease, make humans invulnerable. The sources even mention him thinking about raising ghosts or devils. So it wasn't just pure science. It was about power, almost a kind of magic.
Yeah, it definitely sounds more occult than empirical. He leaves this life for university at Ingolstadt. Sad to leave home, sad to leave his friend Henry Clerval.
Right. Clerval, who has his own ambitions, Oriental languages, adventures in the East, but his father's holding him back.
So Victor gets to Ingolstadt. His first encounter with a professor, M. Kremp, is rough.
Oh, yeah. Krempe teaches natural philosophy and just absolutely dumps on Victor's alchemy heroes, calls it nonsense, exploded systems, tells him he needs to scrap everything and start over.
A real wake-up call. But then he meets M. Waldman,
Professor Waldman, chemistry, he's kinder, more encouraging, and he speaks with this incredible eloquence about what modern science, especially chemistry, has achieved and could achieve.
And that's the moment, isn't it? The turning point Victor warned Walton about.
It really is. Victor describes Waldman's words as the words of fate. Suddenly, everything clicks into place. He has one thought, one conception, one purpose.
Such as?
To pioneer a new way, explore unknown powers, and unfold to the world the deepest mysteries of creation. The ambition just ignites.
And it completely takes over his life. The sources describe this total obsession. He drops all other studies, ignores letters from home, cuts himself off from everyone. He even admits later his silence must have worried them terribly.
And the research itself gets incredibly dark. He's spending time in vaults and charnel houses, studying decay, how life turns to death. He talks about seeing the corruption of death succeed to the blooming cheek of life.
It gets pretty graphic, doesn't it? The unhallowed damps of the grave.
Yeah, and he even admits he tortured the living animal in his quest for knowledge. He's crossing some serious ethical lines driven by this goal.
It shows how far he's willing to go. And then, the breakthrough, the sudden light. He figures out how to bestow animation upon lifeless matter.
And his first thought isn't caution, it's ego, really. He imagines a new species would bless me as its creator. He pictures this intense gratitude like no father has ever known. It's about being worshipped.
But the process itself is destroying him, even before he finishes. He's described as pale, thin, jumpy, avoiding people plagued by guilt. The work becomes a torture, but he can't stop. It's a resistless and almost frantic impulse. He sets up his lab, his workshop of filthy creation hidden away at the top of the house.
And then comes the night, a dreary night of November. His instruments are all laid out, anxiety peaking, agony, he calls it.
And then, 1 in the morning, the dull yellow eye opens. Hard breathing, a convulsive motion, it's alive.
And Victor's reaction, not triumphs, not the fulfillment he dreamed of, just immediate, overwhelming horror and disgust. He calls it a catastrophe. He'd chosen features he thought were beautiful, but somehow, together, the yellow skin, the dark hair, the white teeth, it's just this horrid contrast. Appalling. Worse than Dante could imagine, he says.
The dream is instantly shattered.
Completely. He runs from the room, spends this awful night wandering, just crushed by the difference between his ambition and this hideous reality, the hell he's created.
And the next morning, who shows up unexpectedly? Henry Clerval.
Yes, his cheerful friend Henry arrives, ready for a happy reunion. But he finds Victor in a terrible state, laughing hysterically, collapsing, raving about a dreaded specter, thinking the monster's right there.
Clerval must have been so confused and worried.
Totally. Victor falls into this serious nervous fever. It lasts for months. Clerval nurses him through it, very kindly keeping the worst of it from Victor's family back in Geneva.
His recovery sounds slow. And he develops this intense dislike for science, right?
Oh yeah, a violent antipathy. Just the sight of his lab equipment makes him feel sick.
Clerval's friendship seems crucial here. They start studying Oriental languages together.
They do. And it helps Victor. It calms him, connects him back to who he was before the obsession. He starts noticing nature again, finding some peace.
But that peace doesn't last long.
No. A letter arrives from his father. Terrible news. His youngest brother, William, has been murdered. Clerval has the awful task of breaking it to him gently.
Oh, no. Victor must have been devastated. He heads back to Geneva immediately.
Yes, filled with this terrible mix of longing for home and just dread. As he gets close to Geneva, there's a huge storm. He decides to visit the place where William was killed, near Plain Palais.
And then,
in a flash of lightning, he sees it. A figure lurking, the gigantic stature, the awful deformity. He knows. Instantly, it was the wretch to whom I had given life.
gosh, and the immediate connection.
He realizes this Damon, his creation, must be William's killer. The horror just crashes down on him.
So this is it. He knows who did it, but he stays silent. Why? That's the crucial thing here.
He convinces himself no one would believe him. The sources say he fears his story creating a being. The fever would sound like the ravings of a madman, like delirium, so he chooses silence.
And that silence has horrific consequences, almost immediately, because Justine Morris gets accused.
Right. Justine, who had a tough history with her own mother, but was taken in by the Frankensteins and was like part of the family, now she's the prime suspect.
What's the evidence?
It's circumstantial, but damning. They find that miniature portrait of Victor's mother, the one William was wearing, in Justine's pocket.
Oh, terrible. Elizabeth believes she's innocent, though.
Fiercely. She defends Justine passionately in court, but it's useless. Worse, Justina's pressured, the sources say, induced by the persuasion of her confessor into making a false confession.
No.
Victor is just gutted. He reflects bitterly that all judges had rather that 10 innocent should suffer than that one guilty should escape. Elizabeth is heartbroken, too. Her faith in people in justice is shattered.
Do they get to see her before the end?
Yes, they visit her in prison. She insists on her innocence to them, weeping, feeling utterly abandoned.
And then she's executed.
Yes. Another death weighing on Victor's conscience. He sees William and Justine as the first hapless victims to my unhallowed arts. Elizabeth is changed too, sunk in grief, starting to see the world, see men as potential monsters.
This is just layer upon layer of tragedy. Victor can't handle it, can he? He escapes to the mountains.
Right, near Chamonix. He finds some temporary comfort in the massive, sublime scenery, the Alps, the glaciers. But even that beauty kind of sharpens his pain because his senses are so heightened.
And it's out there, on a glacier, that he runs into the creature again.
Yes, near Montanvert, Victor's first reaction is just blind rage. He lunges at him.
But the creature stops him.
He does. And he demands that Victor listen to his story before condemning him. This is where we get the creature's voice, finally. And he says that incredible line, "Make me happy and I shall again be virtuous."
Wow, that flips the script, doesn't it? Is he evil, or was he made this way?
Exactly. He argues for his right to speak, just like any accused person. The guilty are allowed to speak in their own defense. He desperately wants Victor, his creator, to understand his misery, his utter rejection.
So the creature tells his story, starting from, well, the very beginning.
From his first moments, confusion, sensory overload light, dark, heat, cold, hunger, feeling like a poor, helpless, miserable wretch, utterly alone, scared.
How does he learn anything?
Just by observing, watching birds, the moon, a stream. He discovers fire, learns its power, its danger, how to use it.
Does he try to approach people?
He does, but the reactions are instant fear, violence, people scream, attack him with blows and execration, so he learns to hide.
And he finds that hovel.
Yeah, a little shed attached to a cottage. He hides there and starts secretly watching the family inside, the old blind father, de Lacy, and his children, Felix and Agatha. He sees their goodness, but also their sadness, their poverty, and it affects him deeply.
He feels empathy for them.
Very much so. And he starts doing things for them secretly, clearing snow, gathering firewood at night. They never see him. They think it's a good spirit, something wonderful.
So he's capable of kindness, and he's learning language this whole time.
Yes, by listening to them. Especially when a young woman named Safi arrives. She's described as an Arabian, wondrously fair. Felix is overjoyed to see her, and as he teaches her their language and history, the creature learns right alongside them.
And he learns their backstory, too.
He does. Finds out they were once well off in Paris, but were ruined helping Safi's Turkish father escape prison after being unjustly accused. The father then betrayed Felix's trust.
So, more injustice. The creature must have related to that.
Deeply. He felt a real kinship with their suffering. And then he finds something else, a lost bag with books.
Books. What does he read?
The Sorrows of Werther, which teaches him about deep emotion, despondency, and gloom. Plutarch's Lives, which fills him with admiration for heroes and high thoughts.
And the big one, Paradise Lost.
Ah, yes. Milton's epic hits him hard. He sees himself in Adam, a unique creation demanding answers from his creator. But he also identifies strongly with Satan, the rejected, rebellious angel, full of misery and anger towards his creator.
That's complex, but then he finds something even more personal, right?
Devastatingly so. In the pocket of the cloak he took from Victor's lab, he finds Victor's journal. He learns to read it and finds the detailed, horrifying account of his own creation. And worse, Victor's immediate disgust, his abandonment.
Oh, man. To read your own creator describing you with horror.
It cements his sense of being monstrous, of being utterly rejected from the start. He's learned about society, family, love, beauty, and he knows he has none of it. He sees his reflection, knows he's deformed, related to none. He asks that heartbreaking question, what was I?
So what does he do? He's living next to this family he admires.
He decides to take a huge risk. He plans to approach the old man, de Lacy, when he's alone. Because de Lacy is blind, the creature hopes he might be accepted based on his words, his character, not his appearance.
A desperate hope. How does it go?
It starts well. The old man is kind, listens compassionately, but then the others return unexpectedly. Felix, Safi, Agatha.
Oh, no.
Their reaction is pure terror. Agatha faints, Safi runs, and Felix attacks him violently, drives him out.
Just confirmation of his worst fears. Utter rejection, even after showing his kinder side.
This is the breaking point, the absolute turning point. The pain, the heartbreak, it just twists into fury. He describes howling like a wild beast. He declares everlasting war against the species and most especially against Victor.
So this is where the vengeance really starts.
Yes, he goes back to the cottage later that night and burns it to the ground. He talks about feeling a luxury of sensation, watching it burn, imagining their suffering. It's dark. He heads towards Geneva, obsessed with finding his creator.
Does anything happen on the way?
Another key incident. He sees a little girl fall into a river. He saves her, pulls her out. But when her male companion sees him, the man grabs the girl and shoots the creature.
Shoots him for saving her.
Yes, another brutal lesson. No good deed will go unpunished if you look like a monster. It just hardens his resolve, his hatred of humanity.
So he finally gets near Geneva, and he encounters
Little William Frankenstein, Victor's brother. He's initially drawn to the boy's innocence. He even thinks maybe a child is too young to have learned prejudice. Maybe he can raise the boy to be his companion.
But William reacts like everyone else.
Terrified, screams. And crucially, he shouts that his father is M. Frankenstein, that name. It ignites the creature's rage against his enemy. He grabs William's throat to silence him and kills him.
Just like that.
And feels this awful exultation and hellish triumph. He thinks, I too can create desolation. My enemy is not invulnerable. He finds the miniature of Caroline on William, and seeing Justine nearby, sleeping, he deliberately plants it on her. He knows it will look like she did it. It's calculated malice, born directly out of his own misery.
Wow, that's a conscious act of cruelty, designed to inflict maximum pain on Victor.
Absolutely. So then, after recounting all this to Victor on the glacier, the creature makes his demand.
The female companion.
Yes, create a female like him, someone to share his existence. He promises if Victor does this, they will vanish into the wilds of South America, leave Europe, leave humanity forever. He repeats that line, make me happy and I shall again be virtuous. It's part threat, part plea.
And Victor,
Yeah.
he agrees, reluctantly.
He's horrified by the idea, creating another potential monster, but he feels cornered. He sees it as the only way to stop the creature's violence, to protect Elizabeth, his father, Ernest. So, yes, he agrees.
Back in Geneva, though, he's tormented by this promise.
Completely. Racked with guilt, delaying. His father sees he's miserable, thinks it's about the upcoming marriage to Elizabeth, worries he doesn't want to marry her. Victor has to reassure him, all while hiding this terrible secret.
He decides he needs to get away to do this work.
Right. He asks to travel to England, ostensibly for study, but really to create the female creature in isolation. His father agrees and arranges for Henry Clerval to join him, hoping the trip will cheer Victor up.
How does that journey go with Clerval there?
It's painful, actually. The sources contrast Clerval's absolute joy in the scenery, the history, the people, with Victor's inner turmoil. Victor is just consumed by darkness, unable to appreciate anything.
He eventually splits off from Clerval, doesn't he? Finds a remote place.
Yes, in Scotland. He finds this desolate island in the Orkneys, sets up a lab in a shack, and starts the grim work again.
Must have been even like this time.
He describes it as pure horror, dealing with dead flesh again, the torture of single drops of water continually falling. And his doubts are overwhelming now. What if this female creature is even more evil than the first? What if they hate each other? Or worse, what if they reproduce, create a whole race of devils to plague the earth?
That's a terrifying thought. And then something happens that pushes him over the edge.
He looks up from his work through the window, and the creature is there, watching him, grinning.
Oh, Shelley.
That sight, combined with all his fears, he just snaps. He looks at the half-finished female creature on his table, thinks of the potential horrors, and in a fit of rage and revulsion, he tears her apart, destroys her right in front of the creature.
Wow. The creature must have been enraged.
Beyond enraged, howling with despair and fury, and then he delivers that famous, chilling threat, I shall be with you on your wedding night.
And Victor assumes he means him.
Yeah.
That the creature will kill him on his wedding night.
Yes, that's his interpretation. A direct threat to his own life.
What does Victor do with the remains?
He takes them out to sea in a boat to dispose of them, gets caught in a storm, blown off course, and eventually washes ashore in Ireland.
And gets arrested.
Immediately. He's accused of a murder that happened there recently.
And the victim is? Oh, no.
Henry Clerval.
No, his best friend.
Strangled. The shock sends Victor into another complete breakdown. Fever, delirium. He's raving in prison, confessing, saying he killed William, Justine, and Henry.
Does anyone believe him?
The magistrate, Mr. Kerwin, is somewhat kind, but obviously skeptical. Eventually, Victor is cleared, there's not enough evidence, and he has an alibi. He was demonstrably on the Orkney Island when Clerval was likely killed miles away in Ireland.
So he's released. His father comes to get him.
Yes, his poor father comes all the way to Ireland. They return to Geneva. Victor is a wreck, paranoid, constantly armed, still convinced the creature is coming for him on his wedding night.
And Elizabeth. How is she through all this?
She's deeply worried about him. She writes him this incredibly sensitive letter, basically saying she senses something is wrong. Maybe he's found someone else. She releases him from their engagement, if that's the case. She just wants him to be happy.
But Victor, caught up in his own fear.
He totally misreads it. He thinks maybe she doubts his love, or maybe she fears the monster will attack during the wedding. He reassures her they must marry quickly. He can't see the real threat.
So despite all the dread, the wedding happens.
Yes. They marry. They travel to a place called Avian for their wedding night. Victor is hypervigilant, searching the inn, carrying pistols. Elizabeth is trying to be happy, but she's clearly anxious too.
And then the scream.
Victor is searching the house, convinced the creature is lurking nearby, ready to attack him, and then he hears it. Elizabeth's shrill and dreadful scream.
And he realizes.
In that instant, the awful truth hits him. The threat wasn't about his life. It was about taking away his ultimate happiness. It was about her.
He finds her.
Murdered. Strangled. The murderous mark of the fiend's grasp was on her neck. As he looks up in horror, he sees the creature's face at the window, grinning, pointing at Elizabeth's body. Victor fires a pistol, but the creature vanishes.
Unbelievable cruelty. The ultimate revenge.
It shatters Victor. His father, already frail, hears the news and dies of grief just days later. Now only Victor and his brother Ernest are left. Victor's life has only one purpose left.
Vengeance.
Pure vengeance. He dedicates himself to hunting the creature down, destroying him. He pursues him relentlessly across continents, eventually following him into the Arctic wastes. He even tries to get official help, tells his story to a magistrate, but he's dismissed as mad.
Which brings us full circle, back to Walton's ship stuck in the ice.
Exactly. Where Walton finds Victor near death, still locked in that desperate pursuit.
Victor tells Walton his entire story, urges Walton, if he gets the chance, to kill the creature for him.
Right. But Walton has his own crisis. His crew is mutinying. They're terrified, trapped in the ice. They want to turn back south as soon as possible.
And Victor tries to rally them.
He gives this incredibly fiery speech, calls them cowards for giving up their quest for glory, urges them to be men or be more than men, to be steady to your purposes and firm as a rock. He contrasts their fear with his own obsessive drive for revenge.
Does it work?
No. The crew's fear is too strong. Walton, despite admiring Victor, has to promise his men they'll turn back if the ice breaks. His own dreams of discovery and glory are blasted.
And Victor doesn't survive?
No, his strength finally fails. He dies. But his last words to Walton are fascinating. He regrets his failures, but still insists destroying the creature is justified. And he gives that final, crucial piece of advice.
The warning about ambition.
Yes. Seek happiness and tranquility and avoid ambition, even if it be only the apparently innocent one of distinguishing yourself in science and discoveries. A direct echo of his first warning to Walton, now freighted with the weight of his entire tragic life.
After Victor dies, Walton makes one last discovery, doesn't he?
He does. He goes into the cabin where Victor's body lies and finds the creature there, mourning over his creator.
Mourning, yeah.
Yes. And the creature gives this final, incredibly powerful speech to Walton. He expresses agony and remorse for his crimes, William, Clerval, Elizabeth, but he insists they were the result of unbearable loneliness, misery, and the constant, brutal rejection he suffered from the moment he opened his eyes.
Does he excuse himself?
Not entirely. He knows his actions were horrific. He says his crimes are consummated now that Victor is dead and his own wretched existence is nearing its end. He doesn't want pity, knows he's hated, but asks Walton to at least consider the profound injustice he endured. He hates himself as much as anyone hates him.
What does he say he'll do?
He plans to travel to the farthest north, build his own funeral pyre, and destroy himself. To find rest but in death.
And then
he leaps from the cabin window onto the ice floe and is carried away by the waves, vanishing into the darkness and distance. Gone.
Wow, what an end. So we've traced this whole arc from Walton's hopeful ambition through Victor's disastrous creation and obsessive pursuit to the creature's journey of suffering, revenge, and ultimate despair. all ending in that bleak, frozen landscape.
It's just packed with themes, isn't it? The danger of playing God, of unchecked ambition, the responsibility a creator has, the terrible effects of prejudice and isolation. How much are we shaped by our nature versus how society treats us?
And seeing it all through those different lenses, Walton's initial wonder, Victor's guilt-ridden narrative, the creature's eloquent suffering, it forces you to constantly reevaluate, doesn't it? There are no easy answers.
None at all. So thinking about everything you've explored in these sources, what does Frankenstein, written 200 years ago, make you think about today? About ambition, maybe in science, maybe elsewhere. About the value Victor ultimately finds in tranquility. And what about how we treat those who seem other, those we might fear? What does it say about our own responsibilities, individually and as a society?